Hey, welcome. Welcome to our full fireside chat with Amy Hinote. And I am just going to kick off with a little bit of intro music. Here we go. Well, this is Heather Bayer. I've got Amy Hinote with me today. We are just fresh off a discussion, or rather a webinar that we are going to have a little bit more discussion about, because I know many of you are listening to this on the podcast. And if I start going on about a webinar that we've just been talking about, you're not going to understand a word I'm saying. So we will be discussing this, but let me just say gosh, that took a while to get us up there. Technology and all that. Hey, Amy, how are you doing? You have to take yourself off mute to do this.
Hey, how are you doing? Multitasking is really not my thing right now.
Yeah, this is live stream. Shall we go back and start that again?
I think we can.
Okay, we're going to talk about the webinar we've just finished with Amber. What was Amber's last name? I knew I was going to forget. Hurdle. I was thinking Amber Heard. Amber Hurdle. And we were talking about, it's a 3-part webinar series that Amy's producing for VRMintel, and this first 30-minute one was terrific. I absolutely loved it. And for those of you who are listening to the podcast, you can go to VRMintel and you can find that download, and you can download the 3 half-hour webinars that is going on over 3 weeks. So yeah, run on over to VRMintel and bookmark that so you can download that later. Amy, what do you want to talk about what Amber talked about right now, or do you want to really kick off, given that we're talking about women's development, the Women's Summit? Do you want to kick off with your big announcement?
I do. Let's go ahead and jump into that.
Okay, well, I'm going to play just a little bit of teaser music, because this makes me laugh. It makes me very, very happy, and it gives you a hint of what's to come. No, I'm not singing.
Oh my gosh, you cracked me up.
Making me all happy. Okay.
That is funny. Good
That's
stuff.
enough. A little bit of teaser. Over to you.
So we had some bad news that I think has turned in some really great news. So the Ritz-Carlton did call and tell us that they were not going to be able to accommodate us for our original Women's Summit dates, which was February 23rd and 24th. So we have actually moved this conference. It is now going to be on December 1st and 2nd of 2021. And at first, I was pretty disappointed about having to move the conference. However, we did our planning for the conference during that first week of December at the Ritz-Carlton, and they go all out for Christmas. And New Orleans is so amazingly fun during the Christmas season that this is going to be like the premier exclusive VIP holiday party, the best party this industry has thrown. I am so excited that I wish it was this Christmas. there's so many things we can do about it. Amber, who you just heard that we're talking about, is going to be speaking. It looks like we're going to be able to get a pretty big name speaker that we weren't able to get before because of the date change. Obviously with COVID, our number one priority is keeping everyone safe. And the Ritz-Carlton feels very strongly that they're going to cancel Mardi Gras as soon as the election is passed. And New Orleans still doesn't allow gatherings of over 50. So we just don't have the ability to have it right now. And we don't think that we will by February. However, by the end of 2021, we think we're going to have it. So now, again, you can go to vacationrentalwomen.com and you can register. My next announcement on this is that we added a installment payment plan. So as we all know, it's an expensive show to go to. However, because we now have a year that you can actually pay for your tickets monthly and not have to spend that kind of money out right now. So the upside of that is that's only a little over $60 a month to get from now to then. And so it allows more people to come. The downside is that we're limited to 350 people and that we will sell that out. So my advice to people is to buy your tickets early. And I'm not just saying that for money. There's an FAQ page on this site too, Heather, that if people about things like cancellations and what if the dates get moved again and things like that, if we can't have the event, we're refunding. I mean, some of the basic stuff is there. But I mean, you and I talked about it, like the whole idea of things we can do in December. We can do things like Secret Santa. We can do some small group like things. We can do swag bags and gift bags that are, with sponsored stuff that's going to be really, really fun and high end. And the food and the music and the holiday Christmas high tea and the holiday brunch. I don't know. I'm just so excited.
Yeah, when you started talking to me about it, and I got so excited too. That's when I started going out looking for jazzy Christmas music. I'm just so full on for Christmas, and the thought of going to Christmas, having a Christmas starter in New Orleans. And as Vanessa Jean did say, this is 2021 we're talking about.
It is. Although I'm so excited now, I wish we could do it now. But what I'm hoping that we're going to be able to do between now and then is more of these professional development series, like the one we started today. So the one that we did with Amber today is this series is called Growing as a Thought Leader, and it's a 3-part series. And I think for over the next year that we can actually come together. And some other people like Heather Wireman and Corinne were talking about the idea of putting together some small groups along the way, some discussions and things that we can keep us really connected while we can't be together in person. I think we were all hoping that by February this wouldn't be a thing. That was a full year after our first hint that we had a pandemic problem, and so it's just we're just not there yet. And I think that the requirements, even if we were there, would take away from the intimacy of the event, the spacing requirements, the mask, just keeping what we would have to do on site to keep everyone safe is so strenuous that I think it would have taken away a lot of our fun in the process. So this is where we are.
Yeah,
but
I was worried about it, and I was I'm just muted you for a moment, Amy, because we're getting a little bit of feedback. Yeah, I was excited about February, but the borders aren't going to open. I am still longing to get to Gulf Shores for February, and I was thinking, well, even if I get to Gulf Shores, am I going to get to New Orleans? So totally selfishly, this is me. Yes, I am very, very happy that it has been transferred to December. So a couple of questions that have come up. Thank you so much for those of you who are commenting on this. This is absolutely great. We've got so many people on this live stream. The Green Lodge Aviemore says, hi from St Andrews, Scotland. New Orleans sounds amazing. Yes, you should come. And it's fantastic to see Heather. Oh, first time you've seen me. Well, I hope I'm not a disappointment, in the flesh, as it were. Although that just shows I learned nothing from 30 minutes listening to Amber, that I should even say that. I have a question, couple of questions. One from Heather Brown says, are we required to pay for the hotel? I have a property in Baton Rouge, so I can drive in instead of paying.
No, you're not required to pay for the hotel. In fact, some of the people stay in vacation rentals, short-term rentals in the city. You don't have to stay at the Ritz-Carlton. We do have a room block. The room rate is $249 a night, which quite honestly is a pretty decent deal for that hotel. And I can't believe they honored that room rate for the holidays, but whatever, I'm not going to question it right now. And I do see the other question from Deb on here, yes, Deb, it does transfer. However, with this move, you'll see that on the site too. I was going to contact you actually this afternoon, that if you want to keep them, you can. I will refund your tickets if those dates don't work for your group though. It's December 1st and 2nd, 2021. It's a Wednesday and Thursday. And the reason we moved it from Tuesday and Wednesday to Wednesday and Thursday, and you can thank IC&D's April Burns for this, is that the idea that some people come in a couple of days ahead to help us, and it's Thanksgiving weekend before. So we wanted Thanksgiving weekend to be completely over, so that people didn't have to miss any time with family, as that is getting more and more important to, I think, all of us right now. So most people will come in Tuesday. We'll do it Wednesday and Thursday, and then I'm sure several of us will stay for the weekend and hang out.
Well, for one person who came to the original Vacation Rental Women's Summit, I'm definitely going to be there, and hopefully a couple of days early and a couple of days after as well. But yeah, I think it's going to be an amazing event. And I'd like, for those of you who didn't come to the first summit, Amy, can you just give a very brief touch on what this is about, what it's like, because it is not your normal standard vacation rental conference.
No, it's not. And it actually was different than I expected it to be. I actually didn't know what to expect when we first had it, but now I do. So now I'm really excited. There's not a vendor hall. It is an ecosystem event. So women who work in the vacation rental industry, whether they work in technology or property management, or as an individual host, or marketing, or anything like that, this is an ecosystem event. So it's a chance for a lot of people to get together on an equal playing field to have discussions about the industry. And I think that's one of the things that set it apart. There wasn't this us and them between vendors and managers, and there wasn't an us and them between hosts and managers. And I think at other conferences we've seen a little bit of segmentation around that. And this puts us all in the same room in the same discussions. The other thing is that when you take a lot of guys out of the equation, women are much more likely to raise their hand. They're more likely to speak up. They're more likely to have an engaging conversation. The majority of the vacation rental industry is made up of women. Almost 60% of people who work in our industry are women. So if we go to conferences where 70+% of speakers are men, we're not really getting the full picture. Like Amber was saying earlier in our thought leadership, it's not about men and women. It's about male energy and female energy. And there is, when female energy is brought to the table, it expands what we're able to how we're able to think about things and how deep we're willing to go. And I think that what we found at the Women's Summit was an event that was incredibly intimate. It was giving. Nobody was critical of anybody. There was just a real openness and willing to share, and a real support for each other. I was surprised by it. I don't know how you felt, but that's kind of what my takes were. And Christina, it's December 1st and 2nd.
Yeah. Yes, it was such a very accepting atmosphere. I think anybody, for anybody who's never been to a conference before in this industry, this would be the first one to start with, because it is so accepting, from, and everybody's there from the people with one. In fact, there were people there with no properties who were thinking about getting into the industry. Jody Tidwell born, life-changing event, and made many good friends. Jody, I met you there, and we are firm friends now. and yeah, so what about keynotes, Amy? How can you beat last year's keynotes?
I think I can. Let's just say, I'm not going to say anything else about it, but I think I can.
Well, just for the benefit of those who weren't there, who were last year's keynotes?
Last year we had Elizabeth Gilbert, who is the author of Eat, Pray, Love, and Big Magic. And if you haven't read Big Magic, it's one of the best books for our industry, that's entirely not industry related. She's amazing. And we also had Lady Carnarvon, who is the Countess at Highclere Castle, which is Downton Abbey, which is the most sought after vacation home in the country. So it was interesting. She talked about authenticity, and I just, other than that, we had the great Leslie Preston from New Zealand, who I think is coming back, which in a very different role. She sold her company since then. And we had Tina Wayand from Verbo as keynotes. So I think we're going to be able to equal what we did last year, at least. That's all I'm saying.
That's amazing. Can't wait. Cannot wait. Corinne's got to run. Let's start the countdown to December 1st, 2020 now.
It's on.
Absolutely. Well, this is, let's move on a little bit, and not segueing right out of the topic, but let's just have a brief review of what Amber talked about, and I'll tell you what was a couple of things that really came out to me was her very first thing that she said about going to the university. Learning about you, what makes you unique, and actually bringing that out, stepping into what you already are, not trying to make something that is that you're not, because what you are is perfectly good enough. And then she went on to talk about, she said, follow your breadcrumbs. And that is really, looking at how you show up in various seasons of your life. And that really impacted me. I've had a lot of seasons, Amy. And but I love the way that Amber kicks off.
I've had a few careers myself.
Yeah. So some of my seasons were short and unremarkable and unmemorable, except for me, and I'm glad they're gone. But many others, this becomes your story. And I think what came out of this very short session with Amber, which was a lot, is understanding and appreciating we all have an amazing story, and we should start there, go back and figure out what your story is. How did you get where you are today with all the accomplishments that have happened? And then I'll talk a second about imposter syndrome, because I know that you and I we have talked about this, because we both suffer at times from imposter syndrome, and it's something that everybody does, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you and I have had multiple discussions about it. We've been really down in the past. There are a lot of people who do what we do who don't seem to suffer with that. So it's been an interesting contrast. I think that what I found interesting, I mean, first of all, Amber, she's just incredibly relatable. When you think about that kind of a speaker, it's hard to come across someone who actually has that level of authenticity, and just, I don't know, she's just someone that that you could have coffee with and it would be the same person. She's got several videos on YouTube, by the way, and one is a personal branding challenge that's super interesting. So she has other resources out there that are open and free. And so if you're interested in her, there's more there. She's also doing a Velvet Machete Leadership Academy in November that I'm actually going to take part in. And that's another thing coming her way on that. But I thought that it's that whole idea of our story it's not always easy to go back and look at, because some, like, a lot of my story wasn't successful. I mean, a lot of it was made up of a series of, I don't want to say failures. I don't know if that's the right word, but things that didn't turn out as planned. Whether it was a job loss, or I mean, I got fired from Kaiser Realty in Gulf Shores, and got divorced and lost my dad in 6 months. I mean, it was, things happen like that just changed the trajectory of your life. And so I think that the authenticity of it makes us a little bit less scared of sharing maybe the harder pieces too, and not just trying to look perfect all the time and look like everything that we've touched is turned to gold.
Yeah. What else did you take away from that session, Amy?
Yeah, I think the time piece for me, just because that's such a critical piece, like I definitely take way too much time trying to write something or put out content. And that's a big problem that I had. That whole idea of, okay, this doesn't have to be hard. Here are the things that you're asked about. You and I in particular, Heather, we're asked about the same things every day. We're asked about what's going on at Airbnb. Well, they don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what's going on at Verbo? Is the consumer behavior issue, the COVID situation, like, and being able to look at those top 20 questions, picking out the top 4, and then for each one having 3 solutions, like intro, 3 points. I mean, it's so grade school stuff. We learned that in junior high when we were learning how to write an essay. And I've just, it's nice to go back and hear some of this and really think about how to apply it and save some time. The other thing, as far as like the idea of self-promotion being a bad thing, I think that instead of self-promotion, really, looking at what we're doing as providing a service, I think is important. And that's, I've struggled, this, with getting women to contribute to the magazine and getting women to write. So I cannot even imagine how much better the content in my magazine would be, or the content on VRMintel.com would be, if more of the women who are actually listening to this right at this moment would contribute, what they know. These are true experts, Heather. The women on here, like they know more about this space than 99% of the people in this industry.
I've had so many of them on this show as well. And sometimes it's been a struggle to chase them down, and they don't want to come on because it's, I'm nervous about doing this. But when they do,
first of all, I mean, talking to you it's just like having a conversation. It's like having coffee, but you make it really easy. But that's a really good segue to this. Like, there are places that people can, like, you and I, between the two of us, there are places that women can practice sharing. You've got a podcast and you're looking for people on. We do webinars and have panels and VRMintel live events, and that are regional, that people could speak in a regional setting. We also have VRMintel.com, which is really an easy place to contribute an article on marketing, customer service, housekeeping, technology, anything. Wendy Glover just sent one in who's never written for us as a result of that post. And Wendy used to vet all of the technology platforms for all of the acquisitions that Wyndham used to undertake. And so it's one of the best articles I've ever had in the magazine. And I'm fast, so much so that I want to share it, earlier before it goes to print. But there's so many experts here, I think is what I'm trying to say. But the other thing for me always is the delegating piece, and that whole idea of not giving up as far as that time factor goes, not giving up the things that we don't have to do so that we can do the things we want to do. And I'm trying to learn how to do that.
Yeah, but I mean, there's many people in this industry, and I talk to so many that I think, you guys have got some different level of time. You definitely have more than 24 hours in your day. And I want some of them.
I'm amazed at how much, like, for instance, when we had that data conference, and we can talk about that later, but when a hurricane comes up, for instance, like when we had that, there was no option of saying, oh, I'm just going to give up and not go forward and do it later. Because how do you tell vacation rental managers who deal with hurricanes and fires and things like that all the time that you're going to chicken out of doing a conference during a hurricane? You can't. Like, I can't even say that with a straight face. Like, these people deal with this kind of stuff every single day, and they're not, you know what I mean? I can't justify being a wuss about it when they're not. But going back to the idea of the different places to contribute, just on myself alone, I've got VRMintel. I have the VRMintel Live regional events. We have the Women's Summit coming up. We have VRMintel Magazine. And Heather and I have just, with Jody, recently launched a new site called secondhomehq.com. And this is for people who want to who are contributing thought leadership to homeowners and individual hosts. And so it's a new site that we're working on. Heather's been working on building out content on real estate and investing in the industry. And so we've got some new things to add there, but it's largely around design, real estate, investing, customer service, marketing, technology. Those kind of things are still there, but geared towards the homeowner. So if that market is more your jam than the property manager, then that's a place that we would love to have your content as well. I mean, Heather, you've got opportunities on your end too.
Yeah, we're starting a new podcast, which will be called Second Home HQ, or SHHQ. And it will be a little bit shorter than this one, which is usually lengthens out to about 50 to 55 minutes. They're going to be short, 25 to 30-minute episodes. And we're going to be interviewing realtors, mortgage advisors, investment advisors, and homeowners, people who've done this. And our target market here is those that are new to the industry, perhaps those people who haven't even bought their first home and are not sure, how to go about it and what to do when they've got this home, how to decorate it, how to put it onto the rental market. So I'm open to talking to anybody about that.
I mean, Amber made a really good point that the industry is still really young. There are a lot of people coming into it. This COVID will be another transition point. There will be some legacy companies who have decided they don't want to do this anymore as a result of how difficult this year has been. And there will be new people coming in and taking advantage of a new guest, a larger number of travelers staying in vacation rentals. So looking forward, the industry is going to be at another big transition point in 2021. So there are a lot of new people coming in, and they don't, so for like what Amber was saying to everyone, to the women today, is like, you may not think you're an expert, but you are. Like, and a lot of there's so many people coming in the industry that are just looking for information, and you work with this segment a lot, and they just crave, they just want good information, and they can spot it. People who invest in vacation rentals are not dumb. Yeah, these are people with enough money to buy real estate properties, enough business savvy to see the opportunity. So this isn't an uneducated group of people coming into the industry, but they're incredibly enthusiastic, and they can spot authentic content a mile away. And so I think that the women in our industry have a lot to offer in this capacity. So we at Second Home HQ would love to have some of your writings and thoughts and insights there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I say, for the podcast, I want to get some panels together, panels of people who've already done this. That, if you're a property manager and you started out like I did, I was living in England and bought my first house in Canada and had absolutely no clue what to do with it, but eventually made a success of it and bought 6 more. But I did it without the knowledge that's out there, without the knowledge that all you guys have got to share. So that's the idea. We want to pull out the knowledge from everybody and share it with those people who, so they can come into the industry and be really educated by people who have been there and done that at a professional level. I mean, I'm not going to say much more than the get rich quick on Airbnb seminars. Somebody mentioned that on my Facebook group this morning, and this is not what this is going to be. This is the educated forum for investors. So there we are. That's about it. Maureen said, how do we subscribe to your new Second Home HQ magazine?
If you go to secondhomehq.com, there's a little sidebar on the right, and there's a subscribe button there. It's fairly big. I don't think you'll see it, but it's secondhomehq.com.
And all these links are going to be on the show notes. So if you're listening on the podcast, then you can just go to the show notes and you can check those out. If you're on YouTube, because we're also broadcasting to YouTube right now, you will find that information there too. So it's interesting, Amy. A couple of years ago, the thought of going live on 2 Facebook groups and YouTube would have had me just taking off, running at high speed. I didn't like being on video, and I have a tendency to lose my words, a little bit of having senior moments. And what was that word? I don't care, just get it out there. If you've got it, we've all got it in us. So just get it out there and share it, because you guys have got such experience and knowledge, and we want it.
We do, and we need it, actually. We're desperate for it. Please send us content of people.
So I wanted to move on and just, it's been a weird year. We know that. I'm not going to mention anything more about this year. It continues to be weird, and I'm very glad we were sitting in your attic watching over the next 3 weeks, because I think it's going to get positively weirder. I'm sure you do. You think that too. But what we have seen is the virtual world exploding. I don't know whether we will ever go back to massive conferences, certainly not for a lot of years. So we get our education material virtually now. And I just want to do a quick sort of summary about what's been going on the last couple of months in terms of what we've seen, what we've taken away, and what we think about the virtual conference season. So I'm thinking in particular about your VR data and revenue management conference. There was the Book Direct show, which was recently. There was Antonio's Vacation Rental World Summit. That was just over this past weekend. There's the Host 2020 conference coming up. And then, of course, there's myriad other online virtual summits that are not related to vacation rentals, but you can learn a whole load of stuff from them. And I've been to a few recently and learned a lot. So I just want to hear from you, Amy, about how you feel about how virtual education is going in this business.
It's a struggle. I've done 2 full conferences virtually now. I've learned. What's that?
I said you're on everything. I don't think you've missed one yet, have you?
I feel like I haven't, and I don't normally do it, which it's just hard. My go-to no answer, everyone has, when you have that kind of like when you want to say no, you've got your script. My script before was about travel. that I'm scheduled to be somewhere else. I can't go to that. I'm not going to be able to make that. And now that they're not asking me to travel, I can't say no. And like, I'm going to learn how. But it's been fun though. Most of the other stuff I've done have been panels. I haven't done a lot of keynote type stuff. But the data conference was probably the most interesting to me. We tried some different formats there. It was a very long and intense show. That show, the Data and Revenue Management Conference, is really more of a curriculum. It's still, you can still buy it, by the way, but it's definitely, these were classes. These were not presentations. And I think that made a big difference there. We did do some fun stuff. We mixed it up with some battleground, kind of like really edgy, like 5-minute demos, with property managers firing off questions. It's a lot of fun. But the biggest takeaway from the data conference was really this bridging of the hotel industry and the vacation rental industry on the revenue management, marketing, distribution side of the equation. I believe that we will see hotel flags coming in to take marketing and revenue management services to provide those for hospitality managers and property managers. I think that we'll see that relatively quickly. There's a lot of good that's coming with the hotel industry, coming into the industry on the marketing side. Historically, the hotel industry has been trying to work with the vacation rental industry for a long time, but they started working with us on operations and service, and that never worked. There was never a good fit because operations and service in hotels is a very different animal than what it is for short-term rentals. However, when you look at the marketing stuff, now that hotels have put a lot of effort and money into direct marketing, but direct efforts into distribution management and merchandising, and revenue management and pricing, I think that we'll see some synergy there on that end of the business, which would mean that we would see, for instance, Marriott Homes and Villas become a flag, providing direct marketing and revenue management services for some of the companies that they're using on their site right now.
So I'm going to come back to talk about this in a second, because you're when you're talking in those terms, it's speaking to property managers, large property managers, and we talked yesterday, didn't we, about the need for foundational education on this whole revenue management. And
yeah, I think that what I noticed is that we had a lot of education about terminology, about acronyms, about the fundamentals of revenue management, what the discipline is and what it isn't. And then we had a lot of information on scaling, on how to manage rates for a portfolio of 100 to 10,000 properties. However, what we missed in there, and what I would like to go back and add to, is okay, how do you manage for rates for one? How do you take this data and these fundamentals and RevPAR and ADRs and occupancy rates, and how do you take all of this information that we're learning about and actually change pricing throughout the year based on certain circumstances for one property, for one condominium, or one 8-bedroom home in Colorado, or one beach cabin, really taking that whole idea and actually applying it to a small set of inventory to show how that works. I think we missed that step. And and I think if we had that, it would make sense. So listening to your podcast with Andrew McConnell and Sarah and T's podcast on this conference, there was a clear mismatch. I mean, it seems like a lot of managers are thinking, well, I don't need to do that. It's not, this isn't for me. And I don't think that's true. I think revenue management and pricing management is for everybody, and I think it's going to be necessary. But I think that we missed a real opportunity to show how to change pricing for one property and really kind of drive through an entire year of what that would look like. And we need to add that back in.
I think that's something that sort of lends itself into Second Home HQ perfectly, because you've got people who are coming into that with the one property. You teach them that at the very outset, and then as they grow their businesses, they scale, they're going to take that information and it will scale with them.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I do. The other thing, like moving on through the show, so there are 3 that I attended. Mine, the data and revenue management conference, and then the book direct show, and then Antonio's vacation rental world summit that I still haven't gone by to see all of. I haven't seen all of it yet. So moving on to the book direct show, which you actually spoke at as well. What were your thoughts on it?
I've gone through about half of it now, and I've actually taken a lot away from it, even with 20 years of experience, because there's a lot of young people coming into this industry. They're young, they're dynamic. It feels like me 20 odd years ago. And when we came into it then, it was only a book direct landscape. So it was really interesting listening to the new entrants into the industry who are talking in exactly the same terms as we were 20 years ago. And so it does, we're coming full circle, but we've come full circle now with this whole massive tools and resources and software that we didn't have that time ago. And I know there was the Skift article that you sent me yesterday that covered the panel that you were on with Matt Landau. God, who else were you on with? Simon Lehman. I've lost you. There you go.
I'm sorry. It was Simon Lehman and Matt and Carlos did the moderating. Yeah, that was a really weird discussion. I don't, and I know Matt and Simon fairly well, as you know. We had a lot of tech challenges on that call anyway, but it's almost like they were taking the devil's advocate position. And I'm like, why? You know what I mean? It's a book direct show. Like, it's okay to talk about direct bookings. But they were really, really focused on that OTAs are not evil, and that we need to use OTAs in this industry. And that really, that wasn't what we were saying, or what the conference is about. It's not about saying don't use an OTA. It's about, if you're going to use an OTA, have a plan for getting that guest back. Have a plan for converting that person into a direct booking, and have a plan on the OTAs to try to lead people to find you directly if they choose to. I was really surprised by the whole panel, to be honest with you. I was kind of taken aback, and I didn't handle it well. I just kind of shut down. But I didn't. So the panel, the title of it, they set it up to be a fight, and it was OTAs. It said something about the power of OTAs versus the glory of direct bookings, I think was what the title they gave it. But
it was very much it's either or.
Yeah, and it's not either or. It's really not. I do think that Matt Dennis Shaw, the author of the article, really pointed out something that Matt said, because it was surprising. And it was that Matt was saying that even if he doesn't know the destination, will actually book on an OTA. And talking about the trust that OTAs bring to the table. I think what the whole show is about all the things that you need to do to increase direct bookings for your home. And so it was like the fundamentals of your website has got to be professional, and it's got to communicate trust. And what trust means on a website is professional photography, professionally written descriptions, flexible payment options, and some type of flexible cancellation policy. It's not over the top. You just redid your website right now. Area, destination content is great to have. FAQs are great to have. there are a lot of wonderful things to add to the site, but that level of trust of the traveler or the guest who's coming to it, really believing that if they book here, they're actually going to be able to stay here. I think that is, and their money is secure. That's something that we need to have. I think in addition to that, we've, there are just some real basics on booking direct that we don't necessarily do very well. We don't do a lot of really good marketing. We don't use social media as well as we should. And most of the people that are looking for vacation homes are also on social media. So there are opportunities there. I think what happened was going on with Google is going to change everything next year. I think what's going on with Airbnb is going to change everything next year. And so 2021 is going to be one of those roller coaster rides in marketing. And so establishing direct booking, establishing repeat guests right now is really important. I think the other thing that was the drive-to market that, a lot of people at that Book Direct show and at Antonio's show were talking about, that most of our guests are coming from drive-to, areas. And if they're driving, and that's the target market, you don't need booking.com to reach a drive-to market. There are really great target marketing, strategies for geo targeting, and Jody is probably one who could speak to that. And I think IC&D just did one earlier today that I'm sure the recording is available at VRMA, that they did a webinar today. I'm sorry. The Vacation Rental Managers Association hosted a webinar today about target marketing. So geo-targeting is not overly difficult, and it's not nearly as expensive as some of the other marketing things that are out there. So I guess from my perspective, that Book Direct is really about not just that it's better to get direct bookings, because we all know it is. It's also that you have to do that to protect your business going forward, because you don't know that you're going to be able to use Airbnb in 2021. You don't know that they're not going to do some stupid stuff that doesn't allow you. Actually, you can be pretty sure that they're going to do some stupid stuff that's going to make it difficult to work with Airbnb. You can be reasonably sure, you know what I mean, that OTAs will have some ups and downs this year in their policies, because this is a bad time for them. And they have a lot. Booking.com, my gosh, they just canceled their demo day with me for Thursday, and they ended up not showing up for a panel at the World Summit. I don't know what's going on at Booking.com, but for them to just say, we don't have anyone who can give a webinar, a demo, that's when that they signed up for a month ago, that's weird. So I don't, unless do you have any insight into Booking.com right now?
I have absolutely no insight whatsoever.
I know they announced they're going to do a lot of layoffs, and I assume that that's what's hitting right now. So
that's a topic, I think, for another one of these, maybe in a month or two, and we can talk about Airbnb and Vrbo and Expedia and Booking.com. But we are coming to the top of the hour, and we're going to have to wrap this one up. I've loved this, Amy. This has been such a great day to spend listening to Amber, and then having a chat with you, and the two announcements, the one about the Vacation Rental Women's Summit in December 2021, and I'm not going to play out with the maybe I should play out with with Jingle Bells again. And of course, I shall do that. And of course, HQ as well. The launch of that. So yeah, a lot to come. Thank you so much for joining me. Don't go away for a second. We shall catch up at the other side of this music. So for anybody who's just joined in, Merry Christmas. Love it. I know. very much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. We'll talk again soon.
I'll talk to you soon, Heather. Thank you.